Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be back on this stage again this year, but this time speaking alone and not on a panel. So it's a little nerve-wracking, so please bear with me. I think many of you can relate to the journey that brought me here. After working in marketing for many years, I felt like something was missing, so I went on a bunch of coffee chats and discovered the world of community. And I felt like this was the missing piece. It had a place to bring my skills and experience, but it had that element of human interaction and connection. While marketing is one-to-many, community is many-to-many, and that's my favorite part. Building with your community members and seeing the impact on the individual as well as the community as a whole, and then also seeing how that affects the company and the different teams. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, how community conversations can impact product insights. So communities are more than just support hubs. They're where your most engaged users live. They're sharing what works, what doesn't, what they wish existed, and most of the time without even prompting them. And this makes it a treasure trove of insights. And then that could shape product and even marketing strategies. Too often, though, those insights get lost. And so this talk is how to bridge that gap and make community indispensable to your product team and to the company as a whole. So product doesn't need more noise. They need insights. And our job is to be the translators. Take the raw data from community and turn it into something that's usable and impactful. In my experience, there are a few common denominators and steps that I take to do this, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So I created this very simple process and framework that translates community insight into something that product teams could actually act on. It's a lightweight system that I've used across different organizations to bridge that gap between community and product, and I find that it really works. So I call the steps voice, just to help structure the process. So you have validate, observe, interpret, connect, and elevate. So it's about validating product priorities, observing what the community is saying, interpreting the feedback smartly, and keeping a consistent feedback loop between the teams and your community members. So I'm going to walk you through a few real-life examples on where I applied this framework so you can kind of get an idea and a feel for how it is in practice and how you might adapt it to your team. So when I was working at a startup that offered a volunteer management tool for tech employees in order to volunteer for nonprofits, I was brought on to build a nonprofit community. So as a small early stage startup, our product, the volunteering platform itself, was crucial to the company's success. So the product team needed constant feedback from our users. So customer success handled the demand side of the marketplace, and community was in charge of sharing insights from the supply side, our nonprofits. And so we created a system to do this, and we followed this voice framework. So to see it in action, we basically started by conducting monthly meetups with our product team to align on their roadmap and strategic priorities. And then we made sure that we were actively listening to our nonprofit community for the feedback that was related to the platform. And we documented all of that feedback in Monday.com, just because that was the platform we were anyways using at the time for our team tasks. But product, on the other hand, was using a platform called Jira. So after filtering the nonprofit feedback, we made sure to distill the 3 most important insights and share them directly in Jira. From there, we tracked progress and updates asynchronously, and we kept a clear record of what was being addressed. And then, just as importantly, we consistently shared updates back with the community, communicating what bugs we were working on and fixing, the new features, and the improvements that they requested. And then each month, we'd sync again with product to close the loop. And this approach really created an efficient and organized system that really helped create also value and a lot of trust between the different teams. And another powerful approach is creating a feedback loop directly between your community members and product themselves. So for example, running beta tests or focus groups through your community, it also doesn't just refine your product, but it actually makes users feel heard. And when they see that their ideas are reflected back in the product, they become natural advocates, amplifying your message and driving adoption. So it's really a win-win. And so to take it further, we organized quarterly roundtables with a few select community members and our product lead. And that way, these were incredibly powerful because our members felt heard, but products got that unfiltered and direct real-world feedback. And that applied to both positive as well as constructive feedback because you need both. So keep your loops lean. Short summaries, easy-to-digest metrics, and visualized member quotes also go a long way. This can look like a monthly summary email, feedback forms, like the beta groups that we just discussed, or any sort of collaborative platform where you can share and track the progress and the updates. And you don't need fancy tools. It could be done on Monday, on Notion, on a Google Sheet. The key is just consistency and clarity. So now I know that my community colleagues here work at different sized organizations and companies with different types of manpower. So take this information and adapt it to your needs and specifications. But I'm going to share 2 other examples of different types of community and product collaboration that can hopefully help with that as well. So one is a personal example from an early stage startup, and the other is from one of my favorite companies doing community-led growth. So when I was working at a super early stage startup, employee number 5, I was in charge of building our user community. The company was a mobile app for adults with ADHD, so it offered coaching and therapy, CBT programs, and community. Now, we made the bold and slightly wild decision to build the community space inside our app and do it fully in-house. And so that meant a lot of engineering and product work. But we didn't have a product team. The only product person was our super busy co-founder. And so I had to take on a lot of that responsibility myself. So in this case, product direction was actually driven by our members. So instead of just observing how they interacted, I actually created a questionnaire and one-on-one calls to understand exactly what they wanted from the community space, but also to get the feedback on the app as a whole. And then from there, I filtered that feedback, and I distilled what was actually relevant, actionable, and aligned with our mission. And then in this case, I used Monday again, just because that's what we were using at the time. And I built a collaborative product roadmap and a user experience board. And that's also helped make the input kind of easier to digest for our product and engineering team members. And then just like in my previous example, I made sure to close the loop with the community, keeping them informed on what was in progress, what we were going to prioritize, and what would be shipped. And so I also lastly pulled together a beta tester group of highly engaged users who just loved our mission, loved what we were doing, and were excited to support it. And they gave feedback directly to our co-founder on product and helped really shape new features also before our official launch. Now, to the last example, one of my favorite companies. Another game-changing strategy is empowering community champions, super users, which I think was mentioned just earlier, who love your product and just genuinely want to help others succeed. They welcome new members, they can share tips, and they can lead discussions, and this kind of peer-led support causes a ripple effect. And it makes new users feel heard, they stick around, and then they turn into champions themselves sometimes. And this is exactly what Notion did and still does today. And they're my North Star for all things community, because I just feel like they truly get it. And what's amazing about their community is that it wasn't built, it emerged. Users were already creating Reddit threads and Facebook groups and TikToks and meetups before Notion even had a community strategy. And then instead of trying to control it, Notion just leaned into it. And one of my favorite examples is that they hired Ben Ling, who was a super user building templates and community resources, and he became their first official head of community. And it just shows how deeply they value authentic contributors. And so they also set up rituals, Reddit feedback threads where users could upvote feature ideas, help the product team prioritize what mattered. They managed this at scale. They used a tool called Common Room, which pulls data from Reddit and Slack, Twitter, and it tags and it tracks different themes and patterns. And this gave the product team insight, not noise. And so you don't need to control every space your community lives in. You just need to make sure that you're listening across these different touch points and translate these signals into something meaningful for product to use. And that's how you gain product's trust. You show up with patterns, potential impact, and clarity, not just community love. But it is important to remember to share the positive feedback as well. We all love hearing that we're doing a good job, and product is no different. So we share all the complaints and the bugs and the requests, but it's also important to remember to share with them that their hard work is appreciated. And again, going back to it, they don't need more noise. They need the clear, curated signals. So when you bring context and clarity, you're not just a messenger, but you're actually a strategic partner. And this makes community indispensable. So to do this, you don't need a tool. You don't need a buy-in. You can just start writing down things and passing them on. It builds trust, and that's how systems are born. So tomorrow, you can take these few easy steps just to get started. Get a doc. Write it down, what you're hearing this week. It could be on Notion. It could be a Google Doc. It could be a paper napkin. Just tag what matters. Use 2 to 3 labels that you come up with that are relevant for you, UX, feature, success, whatever it is that you need. And then pull out 3 bullet points that are most important and share those with your product lead, whether by email or on Slack. And then don't forget to close the loop. So follow up on the status when a feature goes live, celebrate it with the community members who inspired it, and share that back with product as well. So to recap, voice. Validate the product's direction and priorities. Observe what your community is saying, doing, and needing. Interpret what's coming up most and why it matters. Connect these insights with product clearly. And then elevate what gets built. Track it, share it, celebrate it. You don't have to get it perfect, but when you listen deeply and share clearly, product starts to listen back. So I'd love to keep the conversation going. I've shared my LinkedIn QR. Feel free if you want to reach out and chat community, remote work, social impact, or anything exciting that you're working on. And thank you guys so much.